Quadratic Functions Part 1. For the first question, we're given a quadratic function and we're asked to find the vertex of the parabola. This function is in standard form. And the vertex, when a function is written in standard form, is hk. So to find hk, we're going to take the opposite sign of the number within parentheses. And this corresponds to h. So h equals a -8. Next, we're going to find k, which is the number being added or subtracted to the parentheses, and we're going to take the same sign as that number. So k equals 6. And the vertex of our quadratic function is -8, 6. The next question asks us to sketch the graph of the quadratic function and then give the axis of symmetry and also identify the domain and range. So here we have a function and we want to first rewrite it in standard form. It's almost in standard form except that the 16 should be added or subtracted to the right side of the parentheses. So we're just going to move that 16, and to do that we're going to keep the sign in front of the parenthesis. So we have a -x minus 3 squared, and then you keep the sign in front of the constant term, which is a +16, so I'm going to add 16. Now that my function is in standard form, I'm first going to identify whether the parabola opens up or down. To do that, you're going to identify the value for a. Now, a is the number in front of the parentheses. So we have a negative. Since there's not a number next to the negative sign, we know that that's a -1. Since -1 is less than 0, my parabola is going to open down. So we're going to have a U shape that opens down. Next, we want to identify the vertex. And the vertex is hk. So h is the opposite of the number within parentheses. So h equals a +3. And k is the same sign of the number being added to the parentheses, so k equals 16. And my vertex is then 3, 16. Now we'll find the x-intercepts. To find the x-intercepts, set the function equal to 0 and solve for x. So we'll subtract 16 from both sides. I have -x minus 3 squared equals -16. Then we'll divide both sides by a -1, and I get a +x minus 3 squared equals +16. Next, take the square root of both sides, and don't forget to put the plus-minus sign next to the square root of 16. So I have x minus 3 equals plus or minus the square root of 16, which is 4. Now we want to add 3 to both sides, and we get x equals 3 plus 4 and x equals 3 minus 4, so x equals 7 and -1. Our x-intercepts are then 7, 0 and -1, 0. Now we'll find the y-intercepts, and the y-intercept is found by substituting a 0 in for x in the original problem. So if I simplify this, I have f of 0 equals a -3 squared plus 16. -3 squared is a +9. Then apply the negative sign on the outside of parentheses. So we have f of 0 equals a -9 plus 16, and f of 0 is a +7. So our y-intercept is 0, 7. Now we're going to take all the components that we previously found and use them to sketch the graph of the parabola. The first thing you want to do is plot the vertex. and the vertex is at 316. So we'll put a point at 316, and then we'll plot the x-intercepts. So 7, 0, and then -1, 0. And lastly, we'll plot the y-intercept, which is 0, 7. And then we can draw our U-shaped graph, and we want to check to make sure that it opens down, which it does. And your parabola should go through all of the points that you previously plotted. Now this is the sketch of the parabola, and you'll be graphing this in my math lab. It's important to know that my math lab only requires that you plot the vertex and one intercept. So you can plot the vertex in an x-intercept or the vertex in a y-intercept. Once you have 2 points on your parabola, then the My Math Lab graphing tool will automatically graph your parabola for you. We're almost done with this problem, but we're asked to find the axis of symmetry and the domain and range. The axis of symmetry is given by the line x equals h. And h is the x value in our vertex, so the axis of symmetry is x equals 3. Next, we want to know the domain. The domain of all quadratic functions is -infinity to +infinity. That's because the tails of the parabola can keep on going, and eventually it will hit all of these x values. So all x values will be reached. Now we want to know the range, and the range is the set of all y values. So as you can see by looking at our parabola, the y values start at +16, and then they keep on going down forever and ever and ever. So our range is -infinity to a +16. And remember, we need to have a bracket next to our number and then parentheses next to the infinity signs. And these are our answers.